Welcome to the Investor Empowerment Series radio show, empowering your real estate investing with techniques, opportunities, and information, minus the BS and sales pitches. Now, please welcome the host of the Investor Empowerment Series, Joe Mueller, from the Tough as Nails Investment Syndicate, Joe Mueller.
Hey investors, I wanted to give a quick insider opportunity to the listeners out there who are currently doing deals or just getting started and looking to create more financial efficiencies for their real estate business. Introducing Investors Title Services, a much lower cost option for procuring the necessary title insurance policies for your real estate transactions. Think about how much money you've spent on title insurance in the past on either your current purchases or sales, and think about how much you'd be savings if just a couple $100s per transaction ended up back in your pocket. Well, now you can by optimizing the relationships that other investors have established that you currently need for your business. That's what we do here at Investors Title Services. If you're a fix and flipper, a wholesaler, or a buy and hold landlord, we specifically serve this small niche, offering you the best deal on title policy insurance. Call 847-443-9676 today to learn more about how you can save hundreds of dollars, if not more, on your next title insurance policy. This is the Investor Empowerment Series radio show, episode number 77. I'm your host, Joe Mueller of Tanis Group Realty, today with my special guest, Chris Davis. Chris has been on a couple times in the past, episode number 3, one of the founding fathers of the Investor Empowerment Series radio show. Thank you, Chris. As well as episode number 25. Today we're going to talk about some cool ways to acquire property with very little to no money down, as well as get a little bit of a Chris Davis update, because a lot of you have asked about him in the past, so I'm happy to bring him on again. Chris, thanks for being on the show a third time.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Appreciate it.
Anytime. I love it. I love hearing about all the stuff you're up to. So I think this is going to be a really good episode, and I'm excited to hear about this this acquisition opportunity that you're utilizing as of late. So why don't we dive right into it? Let's not leave the listener hanging, man. Like what's this all about? Little to no money down stuff.
Well, I am using a couple of different lenders that are offering. It's called an IDA program, Illinois Housing Development Authority. This program is really great for first-time home buyers. Actually, it is for first-time home buyers. Let's start there. But if you are a first-time home buyer and wanting to get into investing, perfect opportunity to purchase a 2-flat and do a house hack with almost minimum money down. I believe the rule of thumb is you have to put in $1,000 or actually 1% of the purchase price. So let's just say the purchase price is at $150. You're actually only using $1,500 of your own money. You can qualify up to $7,500 in grant money for this program, which you can utilize that money to put down on your property. I have closed a deal at the end of December for a first-time home buyer. She was, this is her first investment property. She got a 2-flat. She's going to live in the upstairs unit and rent the lower unit. He actually received, because I had a special program in December, they had a little extra money. They were giving away an extra $1,500. She had a total of $9,000 that was given to her through this program, which was absolutely free. She doesn't owe anything back, and she was able to utilize that money to put down on the property. She ended up only using $1,000 of her own money just to get into the property. Now she's going to rent out the lower unit for, I think we had a target price of $975, which the market jumped up a little bit recently, which she should be able to get about $1050 a month. And I just talked to her yesterday, and out of pocket, once she has a tenant in there, she's going to get $1050 a month in rent. to pay her mortgage and her utilities, she will pay out of pocket less than $200 a month.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
It's amazing.
So,
it's amazing.
Yes,
Absolutely amazing.
It is amazing. Yes, you're right. Better words. Incredibly amazing. Couple questions just based off of what you said, just so I can get the clear picture here for the listener. The IDA program, or the IDA, you're saying it's a grant. So that's something, and you mentioned it, but I want to make sure this is something that they don't have to actually pay back under any circumstance?
There are a couple different rules on that. Yes, I believe, and quote me if I'm wrong because I'm not totally positive, but I think you have, if you sell the property within 5 years, let's say you're into year number 2, you do owe a percentage back, but once you own the property for 5 years, that money is then free and clear.
I see.
So, but let's just say you build a little equity in the next 2 years. Well, realistically, some of that money can go back to pay. I think there's like a fine of maybe like $2,000 or something like that the seller would have to pay back for the grant money if it's under that time period.
Sure.
And I might be wrong in that 5 years. I think it's closer to 4. But great program to use, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, especially if you want to get into investing, you really don't know where to start. And you're renting for number one, right? And this is, for example, this particular person actually renting. Her rent was, I believe, $11.50 a month, which was pretty high. Now she's going to go to all of her expenses into this property for less than $200 a month. The savings alone is going to be great. So she'll be actually save for her next property and be able to do it all over again. She won't be able to use the grant again, but she'll be able to do, move out of that property, go ahead and save some money and buy a second investment property.
So it's a one and done deal. So they use it for the first property, their first acquisition. Essentially, they have to own or occupy it, but you use the term. Well, first of all, it's eligible for investment as long as you're going to own or occupy it. So you could buy a 4-unit with this, correct? As long as you're going to occupy one of the 4 units, is that right?
You cannot buy a 4-unit.
Oh,
the program
okay.
is only great for single family and 2 flats.
Really? Okay. See, I'm glad I asked because we don't want to mislead anybody here. I didn't know that answer. So, but what a great way to do something that you mentioned earlier, which is house hack. So why don't we talk a little bit about exactly what house hacking is and how that process can work? Because essentially it sounds like what you're guiding these investors / first-time home buyers, that's the type of mentality you're training them in, is that house hacking. So, by definition, why don't you tell me and the listener base what a house hack is?
Basically what a house hack is you're going to rent either, let's just say, a couple bedrooms if you have a single family, and try to maximize the rent there. And you as the homeowner are not paying, majority of your mortgage. You're paying very, very little of your mortgage, if any. And maybe, obviously splitting the utilities with whoever's living in the property, or if it's a 2-flat, you have somebody renting out one of the units and you are living in the other unit. And what that does is just basically really like any other rental property, right, is your tenants are actually paying for your mortgage, right? You have the initial investment of whatever monies you're going to put down in the property, and your tenants are going to pay the rest of that mortgage off. I'm a big fan of 15-year notes, and that's what I do personally on all of my rental portfolio. I'll put that initial, I'm a little different than everybody else, but I do put down 25% when I'm initially buying a rental property. But after that 25, once I put that initial payment down, my tenants are actually paying the mortgage for me. So they're, over the next 15 years, they're the ones I'm collecting their rent, taking that money and putting it on the mortgage. And then, of course, there's obviously extra money on top, which is cash flow. So It's the same concept as when you're doing the house hacking. Other people in your property, either, once again, you're renting out the rooms, or you got somebody in a second unit, they're paying a bigger portion of your mortgage, which then that gives you the capability of saving that extra monies that you would actually have to take out of your pocket to pay that mortgage. And you can put that money aside and let that accumulate over the next year or maybe 2, depending on how good you're saving and how much money you're making, and then utilize that money for another down payment on another property. Then you can go ahead and move out of that property you can either refinance now because IDA's, usually, well, you can do actually IDA, you can do FHA conventional, VA, you do have all those programs in there. But in this circumstance, this was a FHA loan. So you have to actually live on the property when you do an FHA loan, but she can go ahead and refinance out to a conventional and do another FHA loan. What's cool about the FHA is, you can do 3.5% down, but now they are also offering conventional loans at 3% down. So very, very little money. So let's say you pick up, just let's do even numbers here, at $100,000 property and you're doing an FHA at 3.5%, it's only $3,500 out of your pocket, versus someone that's going to put down 25% like myself. And I got to put down $25,000. So it's a huge, huge difference. And the program is really great because $3,500 to get into a property. If you use this IDA program, like my client just did, she walked away with just about $1,000 into her first investment property out of her pocket. She has zero money into the building besides $1,000. That is huge. Right. And then in the meanwhile, over the next X amount of years, the tenants are going to pay for it. So really unique program, really the way to go if you're starting off. If you can swing it, let it be your girlfriend or boyfriend, doesn't like the idea, well, the heck with them. You can live by yourself, or if they want to join you, they can do that too.
Right. So it sounds like what you said then to get a better picture of this program is it's essentially a grant that's offered by, like you said, the Illinois Housing Development Authority that's actually paired up with an additional loan program from, your standard available program. So for example, like you said, if you're going to be utilizing an FHA loan with a 3.5% down payment, IDA is also going to be supplementing essentially that down payment. Is that right?
That is correct.
They kind of work in tandem together. So two separate things. So that's cool. I actually didn't know that. I that's a new piece of information for me. And I think, the real message that I'm hearing you say without exactly saying it is there's a lot of people that are kind of stagnant in their next move. And there's a lot of renters out there that want to be investors. There's a lot of renters that want to be homeowners. Not only is a program like this a great way to get in with very little to no money down on your first purchase of your own property, if you think like an investor and you actually do buy a 2-flat, like you had mentioned, that tenant essentially is going to pay off and pay the majority of your mortgage payment and your mortgage over time. And a key factor being, this is just a springboard to the next step, like you mentioned about that last client. So while she's only paying $200 a month out of pocket, she can be saving that additional $1,000 or whatever essentially that she would have been paying in rent, and she can start socking that away towards the down payment of another property, and she can essentially move out and buy another house in the next couple of years, and now she's got 2 investment properties.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the whole concept of it. And what else is actually pretty cool, this is for first-time home buyers. Sure. But they do have exceptions. If you have not, let's say you previously owned the home 5 years ago and you went through the crisis, just like everybody else did. And, unfortunately, maybe you lost your house, just an example here. They do allow, if you have not owned a home in 3 years or more, they do allow you to requalify as a first-time home buyer. So very, very cool, right?
Wow.
So another way, so this is just not for it is for first-time home buyers, but if you have not owned a home in the last 3 years, you do qualify for the program.
Awesome.
So something to look into. Of course, if anybody is thinking this, of course, you can give myself a call or give Joe a call. We can definitely help you out either way. But, one of these things that Joe that you run is and also with Dan Clarton is your guys' Investment Power Series group, right? Did I say that correctly?
Of course.
Your investment group, okay.
The meetup, yeah. We just call it the meetup. That's slang for meetup.
The meetup, yeah. It's very, very cool that way. But this is where I met this client and we were able to go from there. Now word got around that I was helping her and got her into this IDA program, and things are running smoothly. Needless to say, over the past 2 weeks, I've gotten 2 other clients that came to me, Christian, I really, really got to find it properly. Not a problem. Let me help you. And they knew the program. We started talking about it, and I was able to get them connected with one of the correct lenders, and they talked to them, and they were able to qualify for the program. And so now I have 2 other clients. As we speak right now, we're under contract for 2 other 2 flats, and they're doing the same thing that this first client did. And I just think it's the coolest thing ever. If I was this smart when I was 22, 23 years old, I would have done it.
Right.
But, hey, hats, I mean, hands down, hats off to all these guys. I think it's great. I want every single one of these guys to succeed. It's just not about, yes, I'm a seasoned investor, but you know what, being a seasoned investor, I can help people like them in order to achieve their goals, right? I want every single one of these people to be on the same page that I am and be at the same level. When I first started investing, I always was looking for that mentor, and actually, Joe, you were one of them. And I'll quickly tell this quick story. Is when I actually first met Joe was, I don't know, had to be 4 years ago by now, but I wasn't doing any rental properties. And the first conversation I had with Joe was, why aren't you doing any rentals? Well, I was just flipping. Right? I'm like, why would I do rentals? Joe, I'm making, X amount of dollars flipping houses. I mean, it's ridiculous. I left that meeting after the first time I met Joe, and I really thought to myself, I don't know, maybe it does kind of make sense, right? All of a sudden it clicked. And I've been working diligently over the past 3.5 years or so, building a rental portfolio. But it does take that first person as a mentor, right? As somebody really saying and telling you, look into rental properties. And all of a sudden it clicks and your world changes.
Right. No, I 100% agree. And I mean, to step back a little bit of what you said a little bit earlier in the beginning of that statement, to go back to being 22 or whatever and knowing this information now of how powerful that first property, I bought a townhome, was my first acquisition that I lived in. And if I could have been smart enough or been mentored by somebody that said, hey, you know what? Screw the townhome. Get yourself a 2-unit. You keep the garage, whatever it is that you want out of that 2-unit that just needs to be for you. Rent out that secondary space, right? And now that's your essential, that's your, like you said, that's your foot in the door, that's your toe in the water into becoming a landlord and a real estate investor, and very financially beneficial way to get, to pay your bills in addition to that. So the fact that you've taken this concept and you've had 1 and now 2, and now you've got 3 clients total that are closing on these IDA loan opportunities, I think is great. Obviously word of mouth is huge. That's one of the reasons why we're talking about it on this podcast, because I feel like as real estate brokers, as you and I both are, offering this opportunity to those out there can ultimately help and benefit much more people. They just need to know about it, just like how they need to know that if you're going to buy a house, try to get a 2-unit because it makes more sense. Well, not only can you get a 2-unit, you can get your down payment almost completely covered by this IDA program. So great points. Question about that. And again, limited knowledge on my end on how this program works. There is some type of a cap on the amount of funds that the state of Illinois actually allows or produces into the program. I mean, does it run out? Does it typically not run out? Don't they put like a cap, like $1 million a year they put towards the cause and that's it? Or how does that work? Do you know?
There is a cap, and I'm not sure exactly what that cap number is. And I do know even in the end of 2017, there was extra money. So not everybody is utilizing these programs. Not all lenders utilize these programs. There's only 165 lenders across the state that can provide access to this program. So you just have to really, once again, shopping for a lender is basically like shopping for anything else, right? So you ask the right people and you will get directed to the right person, if that makes sense to anybody. Sure. So yes. Like I said, 2017, there was extra money, and going into 2018, we just started. There are properties out there. And here's another cool thing too, is people need to look at this, is buying a rental property, right? It's just, yes, your tenant is going to pay down your mortgage. Number one, once that's paid off, you have a hard asset, right? Let it be, let's just say you purchase for $100,000. Once again, even numbers. At the end of your mortgage term, Say the market didn't adjust whatsoever, up or down. You have $100,000 asset sitting there, right?
Right.
Let it be 30 years later. Well, you and I know both. 30 years from now, these things aren't going to be worth $100,000. We can at least jump it up 20, right? But but being said, you have a hard asset sitting there, and if you can just maybe just do the one property, right? Maybe just house hack your first property, and you get a 2-flat, and a couple years down the road, you want a single family, and you go live in a single family with your wife or your husband and kids and whatnot, but you still have that one property that you use this program for, and you put $1,000 into it of your own money. You've gotten that money out your first year.
Right.
So that's what really is cool about the program. I have another client too that is not able to use this program because he does have his own single family property, but he now is purchasing his third 2-flat over the last year and a half, I believe. And we just got under contract, and we were at the property 2 nights ago doing a home inspection, and he told me that once he gets this property, rents it out with the correct rents, his cash flow a month after all expenses, and he's very, very strict. He takes out CapEx and all that good stuff. He will be cash flowing $2,000 a month. I mean, that is huge.
Awesome.
On top of his regular W-2 salary,
right?
You can't ask for better than that.
And that's through 3 properties total? So he's cash flowing over $500 a month per property on average? Or is that more
right.
Than that's awesome. Well, good for him.
No. Yeah. Hey, so he's averaging closer to about $675 a property. And it's fantastic. I mean, it's $24,000 a year. And so, our conversation that night when he told me, I was actually kind of shocked. I'm like, wow, that is awesome. I said, so within a year, and he's doing 20-25% down, right? I said, within a year, you'll have money just off of your cash flow. And if you add a little bit to it, but you have the ability to go buy anything that you want to get, and to get yourself into another property. So once you start going, once you get 2, 3, 4, 5, it starts to become a snowball effect where your properties are generating the monies that you need to put down on your next investment property. Now, maybe everybody is different in how they invest. I have a goal just like anybody else. Mine is not really a goal of 100 properties. My goal is a certain dollar amount in cash flow. But in order to get there, you have to have X amount of properties. But now that I have my portfolio, really ramped up, yes, it is a snowball effect. I mean, I can buy my portfolio will generate enough money where every 2 months I can buy a 2-flat. I have enough money to put down on a 2-flat. So you have to be very, very strict with yourself. And then once again, everybody's different, but I am very strict with myself. I do not take any of my cash flow money now. I am building my portfolio. Now, over the next 5 years, once I hit my goal, then I can start paying myself if I like, if I want to continue. If I'm done building my portfolio, then you can start paying yourself. But until then, be very, very strict. Live within your means. Just because you're making an extra, just like my client is making an extra $2,000, don't go spend that money. Don't go to the bars or on vacation or whatever. Keep that money in your pocket, keep it in the savings account, and buy your next property. Always keep on with your goals. And I'm not sure exactly where his goals are at. He wants to keep his W-2 job, but he wants to get about roughly maybe 10 properties or so, and that's going to be more than sufficient for him. That's what he wants.
Right.
And he's going to reach that goal very, very easily. And so, people always think, if I have rentals, I have to make this a full-time job. No, you don't need to make it a full-time job. I work basically 3 jobs. One, I manage all my own properties, right? My rentals. My number 1 job, my daytime job, let's call that, is I'm a broker, which is really not a daytime job because I'm answering emails at 5 in the morning and at 10 at night, right?
Right.
But, and I also flip property. So I wear 3 different hats. But that works for me because I am working to achieve my rental portfolio goal, and it all revolves around that. Even if you have a desk job or a construction job or whatever it is, you still can exceed or achieve your rental portfolio goal. And all your friends might think you're crazy, you want to deal with tenants, but you know what? At the end of the day, you'll be able to retire a lot sooner than they will. Either you pay these things off and you cash out, number 1, or you pay these things off and you're going to almost double your cash flow. So it's something to think about.
Yeah, you know what it goes back to is exactly why you mentioned the meetup, but that's exactly why we held that meeting a couple weeks back, kind of like the January meeting. I think we called it the grit meeting, grit meaning like hustle, drive, strength, like keep moving forward, because what happens is, and then you hit the nail on the head, exactly what needs to be done. That's because you've got that grit, you've got that drive, you've got a goal, and you've got that desire to achieve it, and you don't want to fail. You're not going to fail.
Right.
Most or a lot of investors or people get one rental property or two, and as soon as they have some type of an experience that they don't find as pleasurable, or they're not getting the type of cash flow that they anticipated, which by the way is probably because they haven't networked with the right type of people and built their team correctly and been taught how to actually evaluate properties, they give up. And all they do is complain about why this wasn't a good idea and how, being a landlord sucks. But, everyone knows there's ups and downs. There's going to be some challenges. There's going to be some pitfalls. You're going to trip over your feet a few times. It's just the way this business, it's any business. I don't care what you're doing. There's always going to be a challenge to be overcome. But one thing that you said that really means something to everyone who's listening, or it should mean something to anyone who's listening, because they all are real estate investors, or going to be, is that there's a certain tipping point, right? Like Malcolm Gladwell says in his book, once you hit that tipping point and you're cash flowing enough money to start building up reserves, which can then be reutilized into, additional purchases, then it really becomes I'm not going to say you're coasting, because you're not. It's still work. But you're starting to see those benefits of like, wow, this is working, and I'm going to keep doing it because of what I did in the last year or two or three or five, however long it took, is bringing you to that next level where now you can keep acquiring and keep building a portfolio and essentially building a retirement platform for yourself and your family in the future, or maybe a job for when you retire. There's a lot of people that I've met over the years that own 20, 30, 50, 100 properties, and their job is now managing those properties. And some people probably scoff at that, thought like, oh God, I don't want to, what do I deal with tenants and toilets for the rest of my life? Well, believe it or not, some people actually enjoy handling those issues, especially if it's properties that they've had a personal hand in. I'm not talking about the guys that, go buy some turnkeys out in Ohio and have 10 properties they've barely seen pictures of. I'm saying, and I know you can relate to this, when you've got your hand personally touching these assets and hey, there's a water heater that I put in 2 years ago. Hey, the roof is new or old or whatever, and that window's been replaced, etc. It becomes kind of like the business becomes part of you. And I think that's why a lot of people enjoy investing in real estate, and they make it a goal because it's a tangible asset. You said hard asset, I'll say tangible, like it's there. You can drive past it. You can be a part of it. And that element of, pride, which is, let's be real here. People are driven by ego. A lot of things that people do is driven by ego. That helps feed that ego, but that's not necessarily a bad thing in all cases, right? Because if that's what's going to take you to the next level to continue to build your portfolio, your business, then by all means do it. So I think that's a great point that I definitely want to talk about. So since we go ahead.
Hang on one second, Joe. It's funny that you mentioned that about actually putting your hands on your property. So in my business, I'm just very, very busy, right? Because I wear three hats, and life is busy. And when I first started, I did a lot of work myself on my properties, and I just don't have the time anymore. And it's a lot easier for me to just pick up my phone and call somebody. Hey, can you go throw a water heater, and can you go whatever the case is, right? It was really cool. Last Saturday, I didn't have a lot planned, and it was kind of nice. And my wife wanted me to be home. I'm like, not a problem. I'll be home in the afternoon, but let me go get some things done. It was really cool. I had a short list of a little to-do list called Honey To-Do List that I made for myself. And I went to Menards in the morning. I picked up some materials, and I went to several different properties, just little things to do. I changed some light bulbs out. I had put a door sweep out a door. I had a broken light switch in one of the bathrooms in one of my units. And it was really cool. And I spent about 5 hours out there just kind of, going to couple different properties that I had on my list that I had a little short list of things to do. And it was really cool just to get out there and do that, and how much I enjoyed that. My phone wasn't ringing. It was nice and peaceful. I was just kind of just doing my own little thing. And once again, I was working on my building. So it was really, really cool.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I completely agree. And maybe it takes a special person, right? There's plenty of people that want a completely hands-off situation. And what we're seeing is, or what I think you'll agree with me when I say this, it seems to me that the people that we're interacting with, the people that are coming to the meetup, the people that are listening to the podcast, those really aren't those people. They're people that are the same mindset. Right. Like, yeah, I want something close. I want something local to me. I want something that I can be proud of. I'm not suggesting that in every rental you rehab it to the hilt and your hands are the ones swinging the hammer every time. That's not at all what myself or I think Chris is saying. What we're saying is, even if you just orchestrated that rehab or that repair or whatever that situation is, it creates that situation, and that property becomes something that, you know, is important to you on a different level, as opposed if you just bought it from, you know, again, I'll use a not that I'm knocking turnkey companies. If anyone, you know, wants to know what that is, we can bring that up in a second. But, you know, you buy a house in Baltimore that you've never seen, that's got tenants in place already, that's, you know, been fixed up and, you know, tenanted for a year. Sometimes they come with a 1-year lease guarantee or more. But, you know, it's a little bit different when that property has been personally handled by the actual owner, I think. And that said, you know, keeping these properties up is part of the game. I mean, this isn't a one and done. This is back to the point I said, this is a business. This isn't a one and done. You don't complete the job, collect an invoice or collect a check from an invoice and walk away from the client and never have it again. I mean, my belief in rentals, I don't know if I've said this on a podcast yet, but my belief is the same as any type of customer service type of business is your tenant is essentially your client or your customer, and every month you need to, quote unquote, sell them whatever that product is for you to receive your money. So if I'm working at Best Buy selling computers, I don't get paid, if I'm working commission, of course, if I don't sell X number of computers. Well, I'm not going to be able to do that if I'm a total jerk and my computers are dusty and my monitors are cracked and I can't get half of them plugged in. I won't be able to sell anything. It's the same thing in the rental business. To keep the client coming back to buy from you again over and over and over, or AKA pay your rent over and over and over, you have to be a part of the business. And there is some element of customer service, at least the way I see it. I'm sure there's plenty of people that can argue differently, but that's my vision.
100%. 100%. No, you want to keep these guys happy. You know, when I get a phone call that something is broken, I try to get there in a short amount of time and accommodate these people. Why? Because I do want my rent on the first. But number two is you do keep these guys happy, and then they're not going to be looking for another property to go rent, right? You know, some of these guys, some of these tenants, all they do is they rent all their lives. But now you do have people that are just getting on their feet and they're renting, just getting started off in life, and it is what it is. But some of these people, they just rent. They don't want home ownership. So you want to keep all tenants happy. You want to keep your buildings in good shape. And I'm a real true believer in that. You know, I had a circumstance happen this week as I was renting out one of my units. I picked up a new building, and I had somebody come to me, and she was a Section 8 tenant. She lived at her property where she currently lives now for 5 years. The only reason she is moving is the landlord is a slumlord and is not fixing things. And when he does fix things, it takes him a month to 2 months to do it. There is a problem. And so, you know, right there is I want that tenant, right? Because once I get her in my building, she is not going to leave. And
right.
That's somebody that I want. That's the exact person that I want in my building. I will make them happy. You know, my buildings are very, very nice, and I upkeep them. I mean, actually, this morning I was in one of my laundry rooms, and there were some leaves in there and stuff from coming in from outside. I grabbed the broom, I swept them up and threw them in the garbage.
Right.
Why? Because I want to make it look presentable. I want it to make clean. You know, people are going down to do laundry. They don't want to be stepping on dirt and leaves that were coming in from the outside. And yes, they did pick them up, but whatever. I did real quick. It took me two seconds, and it
Right.
looked a lot better. It's presentable. So yeah, I think that is a big, huge thing. You know, if your game is to do the turnkey, I don't think there's anything wrong with that game either. Why? Because you are hiring somebody to do those items for you. So I do not disagree with turnkey. I think turnkey is actually a great idea, and I'm really curious about even getting into that myself eventually, maybe at a different state, somewhere warm, doing maybe some, I think it's a great idea. But once again, you're paying for those items to be done for you. Here at home, yes, you can pay for those items to do that, and there's nothing wrong with that because I do it. But all I am saying is, I do it once in a while when I have the time, and it makes me actually feel good because I'm still attending to my buildings. So you just have to make sure you have enough money in there. Now, this is once again, I want to take this back because you did mention that you do, everybody falls over their feet once in a while, right? And they're always,
Sure.
you have troubles. This winter I had a boiler go out. I think it was 3 weeks ago now. It was a $5,000 problem. So, you do need reserves in order to keep some of these properties going. So, it's not all warm and fuzzy all the time. There are issues that come up, and you just need to be prepared to take the plunge and get the issue resolved.
Right. No, absolutely. That's part of that business element is, you're going to have situations where money needs to come out of pocket in any business in order to keep the business up and going. And that's part of it. So in order to keep your customers buying the product from you, you need to make sure that the product is working correctly. That's just basically what it comes down to. And you're absolutely right. We kind of digressed into a point of a lot of hands-on with these properties that we're kind of personally involved in, which we both actually enjoy. And there's plenty of people that could argue, your time is better spent, not sweeping leaves in a laundry room. And there's absolutely a way that you can design your business that way. That's the beauty of investing in real estate and with rental properties is it's up to you. Just a matter of what responsibilities you want to delegate and which ones you want to take on, if any, in that business. And I'll be honest, I was just I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent, but I'm working through a couple refinances right now, and I pulled my rent rolls from the properties that we manage here in-house at Tanis that are Illinois locally based. And I was looking at my income and expense reporting. And then I did the same thing for I have a portfolio up in Milwaukee, as I've mentioned before. And the difference, which is I don't personally involve myself in that portfolio, right? I've not seen some of the houses ever, whether that's right or wrong. That's just how it is. I have a management company in place that's handling everything from start to finish. They pay for stuff. They reimburse me. They reimburse themselves out of rent. They cut me, I'm getting reports, and they cut a check at the end of the month of whatever's left over comes to me. The difference is the stuff that I have locally, I have a personal knowledge and involvement in, and I actually like that better. So I've got both sides of the coin here. I've got one where I'm still making some good money on a Milwaukee portfolio that I don't do anything with. I don't physically drive to. I don't inspect it, nothing. I let the manager handle everything. And then I've got the other side of the coin, which is stuff that is local, and I'm managing, somewhat personally with our team here at Tanis, and I've got that personal touch with, and that's the stuff that actually is more profitable, is in better condition, in my opinion, based on what I see out of maintenance reports coming out of Milwaukee, and I can actually have a little bit more pride in, and I make more money from. So to each their own, I guess, is the ultimate answer. It can be designed however you want to design it, but there's always a way, I guess, is the key factor, and it sounds like this IDA program is a great way to get new investors or somebody who's kind of resetting or restarting, as you said, hasn't owned a house in 3 years, to get started, get their foot in the door. So that's why we wanted to talk about it today, and I think it's great that you have so much knowledge regarding it. And Chris Davis is one of our brokers here at Tanis, and he's What's that? Hello?
No, I think you're good. I think somebody just kind of cut in your line there.
That was weird. Yeah, I heard a noise. Did you hear that?
Yeah, absolutely. But you can keep talking about me. It sounds great, Joe.
I didn't mean to stop. I just heard I thought that was you saying something. Yeah. So I mean, basically, we're cultivating investors out of a meetup group, and they come in with aspirations of doing something and not knowing how to do it, and they end up with properties. I mean, I'll be honest. You don't know this, but one of your clients that you're working on closing the deal for this month came up to me last week or 2 weeks ago when we held the meetup, and the dude was like almost in tears over the fact that he was talking about how he's been paying, $850 or $950 a month renting for the last, 10 years or whatever, and no one in his family has ever owned a property, has never owned an actual property, never bought a house. They've always been long-term, rent tenants. So he's the first, person ever that he knows of in his family that's actually going to purchase a property. And not only that, after he rents out the second unit of the 2-flat that he's buying, he's going to be putting money in his pocket instead of spending it every month. So this is truly, it can be a life-changing experience, and it goes back to some of the concepts we talk about a lot at Meetup and on the podcast, which is maybe it's as simple as that Jim Rohn quote, which is, you're essentially the product of the 5 people you surround yourself the most with. That's huge. It's about networking. It's about making connections. It's about building a team. It's about learning and educating yourself. And a key factor that I think a lot of people overlook is the lone wolf syndrome is very common in the new real estate investor mindset. They think they see some TV program about, some dude with his hot wife like flipping houses and making $50,000 a flip. They don't talk about the real ins and outs of what it is, and they see this glorified version of what they envision their life looking like. They see the end result. They see boats on the ocean and beaches and whatever it is that they're looking for.
I didn't see the pool boy, but go ahead.
Right, you don't see the pool boy. But the point is, all that stuff is true and can be possible, but the path to that success actually can be achieved a lot faster and potentially with more financial benefit by starting off with working with the right people or partnering on a flip, contributing some type of, component to whatever that opportunity in real estate may be. And I'm not getting specific. It doesn't have to be a flip. It can be a self-storage facility or whatever. And maybe you're going to help out, managing it or filling it, leasing, whatever it is, gaining that experience. Essentially, working with other people that are also successful goes back to that quote, right? Surround yourself with you're the product of the 5 people you surround yourself the most with. So just a key factor there. And I think a lot of what we're seeing now is that's what's happening with these clients that you've been able to, or these, we'll call them investors now, these investors you've been able to work with. Because
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why they come to us too, right? Because they're getting the knowledge from the meetups, right? But they're also surrounding themselves with everybody else that's in the room. Let it be newbies or let it be seasoned investors. These people that have asked me questions. Well, I will help you. I'll help them, and I have helped them. I want to help them because even myself as I can't buy everything that's out there. So let me help people that I know that are around me that want to succeed. Let me help you. The same thing goes with Joe. This is a perfect storm for some of these people as newbie investors, and they want to get into this, and not even necessarily using the IDA program, but if they can, that'd be great. But getting themselves some knowledge, and we can help them find a property. And then once they find their investment property, now we can run all the numbers for them. I do this on a daily basis. You give me a house to run, and I'll run the numbers in about 3 minutes, and it tell you exactly where your cash flow is going to be.
Right.
Excuse me. But not to mention, we can get you the property. We can help you find some financing, and then on top, if you don't want to manage a property, we can have Tanis manage a property, right? That's something also that you do, Joe. So
great point.
It's a ring of fire that we have to help all these people out. No, I think it's awesome. I'm really happy to be a part of it, and really proud. And it's really, really cool. So, like I said, you guys want to come out to the meetups, come meet myself, Joe. Got Dan Clark out there that runs the meetup. And it's really, really neat. And you guys just need to get the Tanis atmosphere. And, if you guys want our help, awesome. If you don't, that's okay too. Just come mingle, let's chat,
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. And I just made a note, the ring of fire. I love it.
It is. That's kind of cool, isn't it? Yeah, I like that.
So do we? I'm going to give the meetup a quick plug. So if anybody's a new listener, they can know about it. But after that, I want to get into. Do we have enough time to get into what you've been up to lately? A little bit more about some of what's going on. Okay. So if anyone was interested in attending the meetup or connecting with one of us, you can actually reach us online. Chris or myself can be reached through our website, which is tanisgroupllc.com. You can send a general inquiry. There's a phone number there. You can contact us. As always, you guys know my email address is joe@tanisgroupllc.com. If anybody's interested working with Chris or wants more information about IDA, I will forward that information on. If you're interested in the meetup specifically and coming out and hearing some of these stories about some of these success stories from these investors and learning how to invest in real estate or build your business to a greater level, you can actually sign up at the meetup at www.investor-empowerment-chicago.com. I know that's a mouthful, but just investoремpowermentchicago.com with dashes in between. So that said, what do we got going on in the Chris Davis world, man? How's things been going? I know you're rocking and rolling.
It's been a great start to 2018. I just picked up. Now, I had these under contract, obviously, at the end of 17, but 2018, I just closed this month on a 4-unit building and a 2-flat. So 6 units already added. We're only in January, so I'm really excited to see what's going to happen throughout the rest of the year. I'm going to keep hustling and, creating that income so I can go ahead and get some more money in order to put down on my next property. But yeah, no, I mean, really, Joe, just chugging along. I mean, we're still flipping. I think we got about 5 or 6 properties in the hopper right now that we're working on. A couple are on the market, a couple are underneath construction, and I think we bought one from the auction a couple weeks ago that we're waiting for confirmation. So things are moving, and it's great once again. Even on the broker side over at Tanis, I think I've gotten 3 different clients on 3 different 2-flats under contract in January already, and it's only the 22nd, 3rd, 4th, something like that, whatever it is.
Yep, 24th.
Can't keep track. There you go. I was close. But yeah, so it's really, really cool. So things are happening for everybody. So this is really, really cool. The market is hot, and hopefully we can kind of continue this thing and throughout 2018. So actually really, really stoked. I did hit a milestone this year by buying the 4-flat and the 2-flat. I am up to 47 units, which is
wow,
awesome. I didn't think I would ever get here, but I just kept on chugging and chugging and chugging. It was one of my goals to hit up this high. So now I've set a new goal, and we're going to keep moving. And it's not all roses. Like I'll tell you that it's been kind of stressful the last 2 weeks. Those 2 particular buildings were not occupied. So I had to rent out 6 units, right? And unfortunately, I did have a couple of vacancies in my portfolio. I actually 3. So I had a total of 9 properties to rent, or 9 units to rent out this month of January. In the beginning, I was a little freaked out, not going to lie. I got a little stressed, but you know what? I sat down and I got my head straight, and you know what? It's a business, and it's just growing pains. You have empty units, yes. And all I was thinking is, oh my God, I got 9 units, and let's just throw an even number out there at $1,000 a unit. I mean, that's $9,000 that I'm missing, right? If I don't get rents, right?
Right.
But regroup myself and say, hey, you know what? Just pick right tenants, right? Because my first, oh my gosh, I just got to throw somebody in there. No. Wrong way to go about it. I just had to get my head straight for a minute because I got to practice what I preach. Got to do it all the time. But slow down, get all the applications in, and and start getting them rented out. So that's what I've been doing over the last 3 weeks now. And I have 7 out of the 9 rented, and I have applications in on the other 2, which I'll be making a final decision, and everything should be rented out probably about the 2nd week of February, which is fine in my book. That's okay if we miss a little rents, but once again, it's called growing pains, right?
Sure.
Because you did just buy 2 buildings that were completely vacant, but not a problem. Once you get back up to 100% occupancy again, I mean, then things are running all 8 cylinders. So it does take a little time to get there. You just have to step back a second and think straightly and make the right decisions, and don't make poor decisions on bad tenants and everything else, and just keep looking forward, right? So now, which is really cool, once I hit that, get 100% occupancy again, then I will start looking forward again to purchasing and finding another building and getting in line for that. So it's been really, really cool. A little stressful, but we're back on the right page here in the 3rd week of January. But really
Sure.
exciting. I think it's really going to be a good year.
Sounds like it. I think that's awesome. So just to recap, I mean, how many units did you have in your rental portfolio 4 years ago?
Zero.
And how many rentals do you have, or how many units do you have in your rental portfolio today, January 24th, 2018? 47.
47 units.
0 to 47 in 4 years. I like that. Maybe that's what we should call the podcast, even though we talked a shit ton about IDA loan programs. But
yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah. And and once again, it's just my, every investor is different. This is my passion, to hit a certain goal of cash flow. So, not everybody is I should say it's right for them to have that many units. For me, it fits me. Everybody is different, So, hey, maybe the next guy in line wants 150 units. Well, hey, I'll help you get 150 units. I have no problem with that. I think that's awesome.
Right.
So, whatever you guys want, I'm there to help. You want 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, 150, 200, it doesn't matter. We can definitely help you get there. And with our experience, Joe, Joe, you've been investing since, I don't know what, 18? I mean, how many years is that now, Joe?
21-ish, 20, we'll call it 20 years for a nice round number.
Yeah, 21 years of investing. I mean, that is incredible. And everybody asks why is Joe Mueller your mentor? Well, there you go. There's your answer.
Yeah.
He's been around a lot longer than I have. He's gone
come on now.
No, we're about the same age, but what I'm saying in your investing career,
sure.
But you have the experience. You've been through the bad. You've been through the good. And I've watched it, and I've learned a lot from you. I've learned a lot from other investors. So you take bits and pieces from everybody, and this is what I do. And this is why I love going to these meetups. Is I take bits and pieces out of everybody's
Sure.
business. Let it be a newbie, let it be an experienced person, and I can utilize those pieces into my business to make my business better.
Right.
And that's something that everybody else can do the same. You don't have to use my model. You don't have to use Joe's model. But maybe you could take even a little, piece out of our models, and maybe it fits your model, right? In order to grow your business. So, and that's why it's always great to get out there and network with everybody.
Right. No, 100%. I totally agree. And those are all things that a lot of people don't think about when they're getting started, or they've got their first couple of years under their belt. And that's probably one of the reasons why it's, I'm 20 years into this business, we'll call it. And the first couple of years, let's be real, I was a kid. It was slow. There was a flip here and there. That's how I got started. But if I would have known the power of networking and working with others and build, all the stuff that I'm constantly preaching on this podcast, which is why I do it, then I probably, I could have 3 times as many properties in my portfolio, or 4 times as I do now, because I just didn't know any better. And that's why we're doing this. That's why you're on the podcast, and we're offering this inspirational information and advice to the listeners. So I think that's awesome. Congrats on your 47th unit in a matter of 4 years. So it is possible.
Thank you.
It can be done, can it?
It sure can. A lot of work though.
Sure.
It's been a lot of hard work to get here. I'll be honest with you. Once again, wearing those 3 hats, I'm not exaggerating. I work about 80 to 90 hours a week, but I do have that goal. And once I hit that goal, well, maybe I can step back a little bit. I do love the work. Maybe I'll work 40 hours. That would be actually part-time. But it's a lot of fun though. If you love what you do, it's not work. And I love what I do. I love having the rentals. I love flipping. I love helping people that want to buy rentals, and I love people that are helping people even want to flip. We have actually a newbie investor that is part of the meetup that we just listed his house, and this is his first flip, and very, very, very proud of him. He did a heck of a job, did a lot of the work himself. He quit his daytime job to get into this business. Don't recommend that for everybody, but
Right.
he did, and did a heck of a job. We listed his property for him, and I think we had 4 offers in 48 hours, something like that.
Wow, that's great.
And we took the highest and best offer, which was phenomenal. He is happy, and we will get this thing closed so he can move on and buy his next flip. And, you know, right now, I think he has maybe 1 or 2 rentals, but rentals is really not his game right now. He's really getting his feet wet with the flipping, which
Sure.
is awesome.
Yeah.
You need to start somewhere, right? You know, either it's buying a rental or teaming up on a rental or teaming up on a flip or buying a flip by yourself. Either way, you have to start somewhere. In order to get to that somewhere, you just need to get out and mingle with people and find the right properties and talk to the right people.
Absolutely. All right. That's, dude, 100%, 110% awesome information. Again, I know you're a busy guy working day and night. It's funny I say Chris is probably one of the only people that I can text or call at 5 a.m. who answers the phone or responds back. And then the same guy I can text or call at 11 o'clock at night, and he responds or calls me back at 11 p.m. I think that's funny, but I like that. That's one of the things I like about him, because I know he's always out there grinding. So it doesn't make me feel bad when I text him at 4:45 and he texts
Sure.
me back at 5. That's cool, because sometimes shit needs to be talked about. But that said,
Absolutely.
why don't we give out some type of contact information for the listener, because maybe they want to talk to you about this loan program or information about the meetup or finding some properties. So how do they get a hold of you, Chris?
Sure. You guys can email me. My email is cdavis, Davis, at tannisgroupllc.com. And, feel free to shoot me a text if you like, or give me a call. You guys have questions on something, or maybe you're working with somebody already and you're looking to buy a property and you just have a question, you want to run some numbers by me or something, feel free to give me a call. My phone number is 847-489-3476. And another way to get a hold of us too is you can always contact Joe. I'm sure everybody has Joe's information, and Joe will go ahead and forward it over to me.
Yes.
Whatever you guys need, shoot me a call anytime. If it's just questions, I'll answer them for you. I'll do my best to answer them and get you guys on the right path. So I appreciate everybody.
Yes. No, thank you. Thank you again. And I'm going to give out that information one more time. That's cdavis at tannisgroupllc.com. Tannis Group is spelled TANIS Group, LLC.com. And Chris's phone number, 847-489-3476. Real quick, a special offering before we wrap it up. We've got a bunch of new listeners that are new to the show in the last few months. I can kind of tell by tracking this information on the podcast. I'd love to get some more 4, 5, 18-star reviews out there. So any listeners who haven't subscribed to the podcast or given a review, I'm asking you to. If you can show me that you've actually reviewed the podcast, I will send you a copy of our 2-page cash deal contract that we use in our off-market property business for acquiring off-market properties. It's a great tool. I can explain it to you. Shoot me an email once you've given the feedback on iTunes or Stitcher or YouTube or Google Play. And we're on iHeartRadio now. We're on Spotify now. It's probably one of the reasons why the audience is growing, but I love it. Love to get some more reviews.
That's amazing, Joe.
Yeah, it keeps growing, man. It's awesome. I love it.
That's amazing. I don't know. I think I was on like episode 4, 3, something around there, 5, 6.
Episode 3 and episode 25. Yes.
Wow. And this is episode 77, I believe.
77. You know it.
That is impressive. You're doing a hell of a job, Joe.
Thank you.
And I just think it's phenomenal, especially giving a lot. You guys, once again, and I know Joe is very keen on this, and this is all free information. You guys, all you have to do is just tune into this podcast, and it just doesn't go along with the podcast. You're getting contacts, during
Right.
during the podcast in order to call people, and it's free information. So something to take advantage of instead of all the gurus that are out there. So, and I just love what you're doing, Joe. It's fantastic.
Thanks, man. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, let's wrap it up, man. I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate your time on the show today.
Sounds like a plan.
I will see you tomorrow morning at the auction. That's my plan. So I will see you there. And I don't know. We'll talk then. Thanks for your time.
Phenomenal.
Awesome
Thanks, guys.
show.
Thanks again, Joe. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yep.
You too.
Talk to you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Investor Empowerment Series radio show. Be sure to tune in next week for another empowering episode. We welcome your feedback, so please rate us on iTunes and Stitcher, and visit us at www.investoремpowermentchicago.com or tennisgrouprealty.com.